Hey Pool Chasers, this episode is brought to you by Merlin Industries. Each Merlin liner is custom designed and manufactured in 100% North American virgin vinyl. That means no offshore material and no reground material. They also offer some of the most impressive lead times in the industry. To check out your special offer on vinyl liners, visit merlinindustries.com/poolchasers. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today in episode 92 of the Pool Chasers podcast. As always, our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. Well, these are definitely uncertain and difficult times for all of us. We're all having to adjust our lives in one way or another. The coronavirus has most of our states on some sort of lockdown and has businesses scrambling a bit to figure out how to survive these times. We've been monitoring the situation very closely so that we could put out an episode that would guide you where to get the most up-to-date information our industry has, as well as provide you with some ideas to try and make the most of the situation. Our three guests today have been working tirelessly to provide updates as quick as possible as they come in from the White House and different government officials around the country. They even created a website and Facebook group specifically designed to provide a go-to platform for the industry. Since the beginning, they've been fighting for your right to be deemed as an essential business and continue to do so in areas that may be unclear at the moment. On our website, you will find links to every resource mentioned in the episode, as well as links to some of the other associations around the country fighting for you too. We are blessed in this uncertain time to be deemed an essential business in most places. To all of you working hard out in the field, our thoughts and prayers are with each and every one of you to remain safe out there. We hope you enjoy this episode with Sabeena Hickman, Janay Rickwalder, and Jennifer Hatfield of the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here, and we know you've all worked really hard over the last few weeks to put together everything we're going to talk about. So want to thank you for doing that for the industry, and thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Cool. Can you please introduce yourself to listeners? I know we've had Sabeena on before, but maybe you all can kind of introduce yourselves and how you got into the industry and what your role is with PHTA.
Sure. I'll start off. I'm Sabeena Hickman with the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. I'm currently the president and CEO. I joined the Alliance, the association, in September. Never thought we would be dealing with a pandemic, but it's been a very interesting time for all of us, but it really validates the passion and collaboration of this industry, our ability to work together and really advocate for the pool and hot tub industry. So although it's been challenging, there are definitely some rewards that have come through this experience.
Yeah, and you came from the landscape industry, so I mean, I know you love it, but they're probably going through a lot worse times than we are right now. At least we seem to be deemed essential in most places, so that's good for the industry.
They actually just over the weekend were deemed essential. So It's interesting when we talk about collaboration, it's not only with our sister organizations, the chapter organizations, but we've also reached out to HVAC, lawn and landscape, restaurant association. So you're really seeing the association community come together to really share strategies to overcome the pandemic and the impacts of it and really leverage their industries.
Right. Janay, how about you?
Hi, I'm Janay Rickwalder. I am the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at PHTA, and I've been with the organization since January. It has definitely been quite an interesting ride so far, but as Sabeena mentioned, the passion and the commitment that our members have towards building each other up during this time is just something that it's not necessarily common to see in associations, and it's a great example of the unification of our organizations.
Yeah. What's your background? Where did you come from before this?
Sure. I came actually from a very similar association, the National Pest Management Association. So we represented exterminators, pest management professionals, manufacturers, distributors, and they're going through a similar process as we are as it relates to, defining themselves as essential in this scenario.
Yeah. And I bet everybody's kind of going through a similar version, but that's cool to hear the associations kind of joining together. That's good. Really need to help each other out in these times.
Absolutely.
So Jen?
Hello, Jennifer Hatfield. I lead the government affairs team for PHTA, and I guess I'm the old timer of the bunch here in the sense of I've been representing the industry in some way or form since 2006. So, in my background before that is I was a committee attorney in the Florida legislature, and so I started doing lobbying, advocating for the industry in '06. It's just grown for 14 years, and we deal with the legislative side and the regulatory rulemaking side for all 50 states and federal government. So we've been pretty busy for the COVID response. And even I'll go way back and say I must have just loved the pool industry since I was a little kid, because I was a pool rat and I was a lifeguard and a CPO instructor and swim instructor. So there you go. It goes way back. I just love the pool and spa industry.
Does this remind you of any other time in history since you've been doing this?
No, I mean, this is a first. I was saying to my husband the other night, I said, I guess I can add addressing a pandemic to my resume. I mean, we've had a lot of different issues. I mean, I know back in '06 and '07 when I started, it was all about the suction entrapment avoidance issue with Nancy Baker's daughter and the federal act. That was a big, big issue for the industry. But I mean, this affects every aspect of our industry. And it's just, it's a global issue. So it's something I've never seen before.
Yeah, it's truly something that is affecting everybody. And if you think it's not even affecting you, it's affecting manufacturing. It's literally everything you can possibly think of. We're definitely all in this together.
Exactly. And that's what's been nice. It's to see the us come together as a village, both our members and our affiliate members, the other associations, non-members. It's all of us working together.
Very good. Yeah, there's a real sense of community out there. I've been really proud of the pool industry and also just humanity in general. I feel like there's a lot of people out there stepping up to the plate, just doing whatever it takes so that we can get through this and we can help each other and even help people that are less fortunate, that don't have, computers and different things like that. We just had Noah Structure Studios on, and he was donating computers to different schools that there's kids that don't have computers. And now, since all the kids are having to stay home and do their online schooling, they need computers. So it's so cool to see everybody stepping up.
Agreed.
So how has PHTA been adjusting from working from home, and what's the plan?
So they just ordered a shelter in place for Maryland. We've got colleagues that reside in Maryland and Virginia predominantly. Jennifer is based out of Florida. So Maryland's very strict in terms of their shelter in place, meaning there's fines associated with that. You can get a $5,000 fine or up to a year in jail. Virginia is a little bit more lenient in terms of you can travel to and from work. So we're on a rotational schedule now. That can change. The Virginia order is until June 10th, unless otherwise, unless they rescind that. So we've had a skeleton crew for quite some time. Maybe five in the office. With technology, everybody has a laptop. We're on Microsoft SharePoint. Our phones, we can twin our phones so they ring on our cell phone. Aside from the Colorado office is not able to send out the CPO manuals, but Janay and her team have turned that into a flip book. So we're making all the adjustments in order to do business as usual as best as we can. Everyone's adjusted well to working remotely. We have Zoom calls. We're on Microsoft Teams where we share screens. So in some ways, some people feel as if they've been more productive. They've been able to tackle some of those nagging projects that they weren't able to get to. We're working on a new website. So Janay is going to deploy a plan so folks can start writing content. We're going to take advantage of this time. The three of us have obviously been heavily immersed in COVID-19. We talk about how we wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about it, and we're just trying to crank out resources. The nice thing is our members are telling us what they need, and it's enabling us to create and deploy resources that they need. Yeah, we're making the adjustment. We obviously canceled our board meeting, which was in Florida. We're going to move to a virtual meeting to be determined. We haven't determined a date yet. I told my leadership team I want you to focus on your business first, and then we can focus on the association once things level out a little or we get used to the new norm. And then in terms of our CPO instructors, we've created a new platform for them to teach courses, which is virtual, and then we're going to deploy online testing. So I'm very proud of the team and the adjustments that they've made, and there still may be more to come. A lot more collaboration, group thinking, strategizing, but so far we're adjusting quite well to the remote work environment.
That's all really cool. Thank God for technology. If this would have happened maybe in the 90s or something like that, this would have been a whole nother story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just communicating to people that you need to stay in would not be the same, because the way that they're getting a lot of these new laws out and different things is on Twitter and Facebook and email and all these different things. You wouldn't have been able to do that. There have been a lot more fines maybe back in the 90s. A lot of $5,000 fines going out.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first thing I go to is Twitter. When I hear, oh, the governor of Virginia is going to address, you can get updates faster on Twitter than anything else. Unless you go to the PHTA Corona Update website. There's some pretty timely updates there as well.
Yes,
there is. Yeah, we're all kind of adjusting to home life. I mean, I know, Greg, you were telling some stories earlier about what you guys are doing, to kind of figure out schedules at home.
Yeah, just like everyone here, we're all kind of doing what we got to do. But we were talking about it's really important to have a nice workspace, home office, wherever you can find, you want to find a good place inside your house where you can set up a desk and, you can kind of pull yourself away from everything going on in the house, but also getting your family set up on a good schedule. Because if you can get your family on a schedule, you'll be so much more productive. And you will be more productive because, you have these 5-10 things that you got to get done in a day. And once you've gotten the kids online, schooling done, and you've gotten all these other things completed, when you get into your task, you have no choice. There is no, I think I'll just kind of, stretch for a little bit, maybe watch a little, go down a rabbit hole on YouTube. There is absolutely none of that. When you get to your desk and it's time to knock out those 5-10 things on your checklist, you're going to go right to it. So there's a lot of different things that we can be doing. I know you're doing some workouts, doing with my daughters. I highly suggest everybody. We'll put them on our website as well. It's the COVID-19 challenge. Mm-hmm. And they're doing, that's more of the schedule. But as far as a workout plan, I think that's great for little kids. And for my daughters anyway, we're doing different agility stuff, stretching, burpees. They're super into gymnastics. So they're on the gymnastics bars, and I'm just wearing their little butts out. And they're calling me coach. I felt proud because I was like, hey, don't get ahead of me. I said, we're doing this next. And they said, okay, coach. And my wife was like, did they just call you coach? I'm all, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. So it's a good time in connecting with our families, and also they're learning how to do some things that we haven't had as much time for, like chores. Chores are really important, and I feel like that's kind of going away. But making sure that have a checklist of things that we got to do every day. One thing I do want to add, because I feel like my daughters are so inquisitive, is how is everybody explaining what the coronavirus is to their children? Because I've had to have this talk and I was a little bit nervous for it, but I'm just curious how you guys have been able to get that message to your family.
And Jen, why don't you take that? Because Lincoln's the youngest out of all of them.
Yes. Yeah. Lincoln's 5. Well, first just say, Greg, I agree. I mean, children really need routine. So we've noticed that getting that routine down with him, and we're having school hours and time outside and things like that are really helpful. And trying to explain to him what is all going on. We've tried to kind of just explain that there's a virus out there that can make people sick, and that we're trying to be very careful. And I guess in a way to not scare him, we've also noted that it's just like my mom lives a 1.5 miles from us. And so we're just saying, hey, it's, we're trying to be careful for everybody, especially older people like grandma, just to kind of explain it in their terms they understand. And, he seems to get that, and he knows that that's why we're doing things differently. And he started to talk to his classmates though through Zoom and FaceTime and all those things so it's interesting too, because I think, I don't know how about you, how you've been, but we've kind of tried to be somewhat limited on our screen time throughout the last few years. They always talk about limiting, but now this new reality, well, he's actually probably getting more screen time, but we're trying to utilize it in a way so he's socializing with his friends.
Right. No, that's good. There's got to be a balance to all of it. And, one thing I will say on this, I had to step in and actually help my daughter that's 6, had to help her teacher because she didn't know how to do something in Google Classrooms. And there were some parents that were just kind of like being more frustrated and not really helping. And I stepped in and kind of took the time to figure it out. But it made me think that everybody needs to have that mindset right now where it's like, you know what, instead of pointing the finger because nobody saw this coming, you should be able to jump in. That should be the first thought that comes to mind is, how can I help this woman? How can I help this family? How can I help anybody? Is there anything that I can do or I know how to do? Or do I have something I can give to somebody to help them through this time? You should step up and do it. Just like, you guys are, waking up in the middle of the night, figuring out things to put on your website and get that message out, which, we've been glued to the PHTA website and figuring out because we're trying to find all these resources and able to, answer the questions that we might have. But man, if there's anything that you can do, this isn't a time to, that's not my job, or you should know how to do this. It's just, what can I do to help? Let's do this and hope that when I need help, that there's somebody there to perhaps help me.
And that's a great point. I mean, you have to think about some of the lessons learned through this. And you talk about social media. There are so many funny memes coming out. But one that really resonated with me was, all of our kids have been involved in youth sports. And it said, think about the pizza guy who supported your team. Now it's time for you to support them. So as much as, we're at home and we're cooking, we've been doing a lot of carry out. And we're looking at old baseball shirts and saying, oh, Paisano sponsored our team, so let's go get carry out. And I make my kids go in and say, hey, we chose you because you supported West Springfield Little League. So the little things that you can do and lessons that you can teach your kids, I think, is really important through this. I want to pivot to Janay because she's actually got a really interesting scenario because she's got a high school senior, and so many folks are talking about how COVID-19 has taken away all those special months and closures as you close the chapter in high school. So Janay, how are you and Jack dealing with this?
I think it is finally beginning to hit that, school is effectively over for his senior year. And that is, it's sad, but he's taken it in stride. He realizes that, there's absolutely nothing we can do to change this scenario. So we have to embrace the new normal. And what does that look like? I think that his perspective is, listen, high school is great. This graduation, is fine. It's a stepping stone. What I'm really looking forward to is the next graduation when I graduate college and can start my real life, so to speak. So it's been quite it's not fun. It's not a great situation, but we're making the best of it. You have to. I mean, in this day and age, with the times that we're facing right now, you just have to realize that there's nothing you can do that changes the spread of this disease, and other than washing your hands and teaching your kids how to wash your hands every day, and staying following the directives as far as social distancing. And if we can as a society follow those rules, then hopefully we can have an impact to maybe be allowed to talk to people face to face in the future. I think that with, like we were saying, with the seniors and everything, it's unfortunate. It's bittersweet, but it is what it is. I do have a really cool thing though that I learned. There's a great way to show kids why it's important to wash your hands. And you basically take a dish of water and you put a whole bunch of pepper in it, and you take your finger into some dish detergent, put your finger in the dish and all the pepper goes away. So the pepper are the germs and the soap is what's keeping them away from you. And it's a really kind of a very cool visual for little ones.
Oh, that is super
Yeah,
cool.
it's awesome.
You pool guys
I'll have to
relate
do
to
that.
that. Put in the dish soap in the pool to collect the
to push the debris. Yeah.
You know, one thing I will say, not everybody will agree with this, but I read this quote and I shared it with you. It's more of a meme, but this kind of put things into perspective a little bit. It's a little bit raw, but it says, your grandparents were called to fight in world wars. You're being called to wash your hands and sit on the couch. Don't fuck this up. To me, it doesn't make any of this easier for anybody, but just think in like the history of events that this could also be worse. Imagine going through a draft and having to go to another country and having to literally having no choice. That's a pretty bad place to be in, where now we have to maybe stay in our homes and do these different things. It's still extremely difficult because we are in a time where we're used to being social and it's out of our normal. It could always be worse. I think sometimes that's the best way to think about it, is that, you know, I'd much rather go through this than go through some of the other things that have happened in history.
That could be something really funny, because I'm telling you, Janay and I get through this by exchanging memes. One of my favorite ones was, my mom always told me I wouldn't amount to anything laying on the sofa, and yet here I am saving the world. So there's...
That's so good.
That's a good one.
That is too funny.
There's some pretty funny ones. Janay sent me another one. I'm going to throw Janay under the bus that said, I'm excited that the phrase, get the F away from me, is no longer rude, but a public service announcement.
Oh my gosh. So true. So good.
So a little comic relief.
Yes, we need that. We need that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Our passion to seek pool industry knowledge and being able to share that knowledge with you is the reason we started Pool Chasers. Turns out Pentair has several ways for you to gain knowledge as well. Take, for example, the Pentair Master Service Program. This is a program designed to recognize dealers, service technicians, and other pool professionals for completing desired training modules. It gives you the tools you can use to troubleshoot Pentair installations in the field and become a master of Pentair product knowledge. Be rewarded for educational activities designed to enhance your Pentair knowledge as you move through the certification levels. With 3 levels to work through, becoming a certified Pentair professional has never been easier. It's training that rewards you and your business. But the real value comes from building your confidence in the field to ensure the customer loyalty you need to keep your business growing. We encourage you to check this out, so to become a certified Pentair professional today, visit pentairpartners.com or click the link in the write-up below. All right, so let's kind of jump into what you guys have been working on, so consistently. There's a lot of information out there, and what we hopefully want to accomplish today is to create a clear vision on how pool companies can handle what's going on now and how to be prepared for something like this in the future. So, Sabeena, the overall message seems to be with the industry that when it comes to health and safety, that we are essential, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Pools need to be treated. Otherwise, they turn green. They become a breeding ground for mosquitoes, West Nile, malaria, the list goes on. So we're really talking about the safety and health aspects of maintaining and servicing your pool. We've created some customizable documents, tools that our members can share with their customers in terms of the importance of maintaining your pool. We kicked off this whole COVID-19 campaign when the CDC issued the statement that there's no evidence that COVID-19 can be transmitted through pools and hot tubs. That was kind of the springboard for us to kick off the campaign. I know that statement was met with a lot of enthusiasm. And from there, we've been building. I know that not treating pools turns pools from blue to green, and there is a safety concern in terms of increased drowning. So we really just want to protect the industry, protect the swimmers. Obviously, drowning is a huge focus for us. So we're doing this. This isn't a selfish act. This is the right thing to do. We don't want to cause more issues that this nation needs to focus on, because pools and hot tubs are not essential. So something that we're continuing to advocate for.
Right. And back when the housing stuff happened, Arizona was a really bad market for housing. So there was thousands and thousands of homes that were not being lived in anymore, and thousands of pools that were being treated. So it was a really big issue out here with mosquitoes, and the government was paying people to go take care of that. Like, they were reaching out to pool companies and hiring pool companies, the government and the banks, to treat these pools, because it was such a big issue that, you know, they weren't being able to handle it without us. So I think that's something that we really want to avoid in this scenario. I don't know if a lot of people outside the industry remember that, but we definitely do remember taking care of pools during that time and having to go flip pools from being sometimes brown. I mean, they were worse than green sometimes. You have to take heavy actions in getting rid of those nasty things. So, you know, it was a bad time back then, and we really want to advocate to these legislations and to our customers and to everybody that we don't want that to happen again.
Tyler, this is Jen. I remember that time. I was already in the industry then, and that's where what led to PHTA, then APSP, and other trade associations putting out those abandoned pool flyer information. So we've got actually, we've gone back and found the one that we used to use back then and are updating it to get it out now. Although we are hoping, to your point, we don't get there, right? We've been deemed essential. We want to keep the pools maintained, but recognizing there may be some that don't, we are going to also prepare for making sure people understand that they've got to fix up those abandoned pools, but hopefully there'll be a very small percentage of that.
You know, and it's such a critical time, you know, any pool service and repair company owners out there, making sure that you are discussing this openly with your team so that your team understands the severity of all of this. Like, limit yourself from going inside of gas stations. Don't go into restaurants. Don't do any of that. We're going from pool A to pool B. And when we're there, more than ever, we are laser focused on what the water chemistry is and what needs to be done at each one of these pools, because, you know, you are to some degree under the microscope, but you also want to make sure that that pool is in much better shape than you left it. And also you're being proactive. It's starting to warm up a little bit. So you want to make sure that we're being proactive and making sure that the chemistry is in perfect balance. There's no leaks. There's no issues. Don't give any of the homeowners any reason to discontinue service. So yeah. I think that's something I didn't quite think about until right this second, but you know, there's a lot of owners that listen to this, but that is critical in communicating that information to every single person on your team, and how, you know, you should be responsible when you're out there in the field.
Jen and I were also talking about, you know, lessons learned, and we really, if you're in service or, you know, in maintenance, we really need to stress that they're there for the health and safety of your pool. You know, we're like, do we change the title instead of a service professional? Is it a health and safety service professional? Because that point is very understated, and that could really help. They're there so that the pool is safe and it remains healthy. And that's something moving forward that you will probably stress more in terms of when we talk about career paths and, you know, vital positions in the service industry.
Right. And also, I'd tell yeah, a pool will turn green. I will say that a pool will turn green overnight here in Arizona in the summertime. And that is so dangerous for so many other reasons than just mosquitoes and gnats and different things like that, is that if, say, unfortunately, someone were to fall into a pool that was green, you can't see the bottom of the pool. You can't see anything. In what would have been a clear pool, and you could have maybe, you know, just dove into the pool and got somebody out right away. When you have a green pool, because you know what the green pools look like out here, you're screwed. Like, you can't see anything. You don't know what's going on in that pool, and it is extremely expensive for a lot of pools to bring back to blue. So if you're just letting it go, you're damaging your filter, you're damaging your pump, you're damaging the surface, you're damaging so many things, and it's going to cost you a lot more money than it was to just stay on with service. So a lot of that is back to the communication that you do have with your customers.
And on that note, that reminds me too, because we're discussing so much the backyard pool and of course the health and safety of the homeowner, those are the first aspects. But to your point about the cost, that's another aspect we're talking about to the public pools too, because put out a fact sheet last week providing information on why, yes, we understand that public swimming facilities are not opening to patrons right now, but they should still be being opened and taken care of and maintained because of all the health and safety reasons we just discussed. But to your point, also because if they don't, they're going to have more costly fix down the road. And so that's what's also important, as much as we're discussing the backyard pool, obviously also because there's a lot more backyard pools and we're hoping that that's giving homeowners a place to be together right now outside and with their families. But we also need to keep the public pools maintained as well.
Right. Commercial pools, you nailed it. And that's the right thing to do, is being aggressive with it in that space, because that's all on a whole nother level when you get into commercial pools or, what you were just talking, the recreational pools, is because that's going to become an eyesore in the community. That's going to be much more expensive. That's a great way, especially for those types of pools, to being proactive and really going above and beyond and taking this time when nobody's actually using the pool to be able to actually make some adjustments, do some repairs, go through that checklist and make sure that every little thing is taken care of, so that when it comes time to open it up, for pool season, or when we get through all of this, that it's in, way better shape than it was before.
Yeah, I've seen some, we have some buddies in that service commercial pools, and Dustin, who was just on a couple episodes ago, I talked to him about what they're kind of doing, and it seems that they are, as far as their market, allowing them to, continue to service them, most of them, or at least, what we are seeing, though, is a little bit of cutting back on maybe the amount of trips a week that are being taken. I know, like, a lot of the recommendation is to turn the heaters off. Water's not being heated and costing more chemicals and things like that. So there's a lot of adjustments that are being made, but hopefully, they're seeing that their work is still being there, because at least from who I talked to, it seems that they're still keeping those contracts as of now. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, that's good to hear. We had a call yesterday with the National Drowning Prevention Association, and they are fearful that drownings are going to be increased this year with pools opening earlier. And so I know, Jen, you might want to elaborate on this. As we look to leverage our position to be listed as essential, we'll get to that part of the podcast. We want pools to be listed in there, and that's something that we're focused on this week. So we are going to form coalitions to support our position with Water Safety USA, NDPA, because we don't want, through COVID-19, we obviously don't want drowning to be on the rise. So they're really looking to PHTA to take that leadership role, and they will support us through the coalition, but really use the grassroots that we have with members all across the country to really carry that message.
Yeah, I think that's an opportunity too for pool service companies to talk to their customers about the importance of it. And, if customers have been resentful to fixing gates or fixing, areas that lead to the pool, this gives you an opportunity to fix those. And, I know that's a big issue with a lot of service companies. Some people don't think that is a big deal. We preach that it is, and I know that's becoming a more popular message for homeowners now, but a lot of times they don't think a gate that doesn't latch is a big deal, but it is. And especially now, if people are working from home and their kids are home and maybe they're not keeping an eye on them as well as they should be sometimes, all that stuff becomes way more important, and that's a good opportunity, I think, for service companies to relay that message.
And I want to say this because I'm thinking of it. Doesn't have to do with this, but find opportunities in talking to even like urban neighborhoods, trailer parks, and different things like that for, what their pool safety requirements are, because I look at this every day and I'm seeing more and more drownings happen in places that we're not looking at all the time. Like yesterday was in a mobile home park, a 2-year-old was unattended and somehow got to a pool and drowned. And to us, that's the saddest thing that can possibly happen. This is a 2-year-old that doesn't know anything, doesn't know their boundaries, doesn't know what consequences are, doesn't know what any of that is. And a lot of that's happening in places like that there's a community pool or something. So, if you're a professional and you live in an area where there is a recreational pool at a mobile home park or KOA or whatever the heck it is, like stop in there and see if there's an opportunity to put up some signage or to fix a gate, fix a fence, or put up a gate or fence. Let's find opportunities in other places as well.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think too, just to make everyone aware, we created a Facebook group last week for our members. COVID, it's a subgroup of PHTA's Facebook page, of course, but the intent there is to provide our members an opportunity to talk to each other and see what issues they're facing and to identify maybe potential solutions that other members are using across the country. We're working to gain some traction on that, but we are definitely hoping that the community spirit that you guys were referencing earlier will thrive within this page.
Yeah, and we'll put that on the page post too. So we'll put like a screenshot of the Facebook group so people can click through and join it or whatever.
Perfect.
So we're talking about essential workers. The CISA, released their document talking about that. Can you touch base on what your interpretation is of that document and what qualifies us as essential?
Sure, Tyler. Well, first off, with that document, it is guidance. It's federal guidance, the CISA guidance, as we're calling it, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That guidance, some states are referring to in total in their state orders. Some are taking it and editing it or has some different interpretations. So they're not, I just want to be clear that the states and localities are not required to follow the guidance, but most are using it, which is good, which is a good thing for us, because that March 19th guidance, there were multiple provisions there that are applicable to showing that we and the industry are essential. First off, there were provisions under public health and manufacturing and chemical that was pretty clear that chemical manufacturers are key for disinfection, sanitation, retail and distribution of that is essential. And then there was also a section in there under public works that talked about how workers such as plumbers, electricians, and other service providers who provide services that are necessary to maintaining the safety, sanitation, and essential operations of residents are essential. And we felt pretty clear that we fell under that. That's where the pool service, et cetera. Now, what I will tell you is that late Saturday, that guidance was updated. So there is now a March 28th version. And Sabeena alluded to this earlier. What they did in this updated guidance, in that specific section I was just talking about under public works, is they added builders, contractors, HVAC, and landscaping. They also expanded it to not just residents, but businesses and buildings such as hospitals and senior living facilities. Now, our feeling on this was that we were already covered on the 19th guidance because, again, we deal with sanitation, safety of someone's residence with the pool. Whereas I think talking to our friends at HVAC and the landscapers, they really felt like it wasn't very clear for them. But having said that, we are actually working this week trying to reach out to DHS, Department of Homeland Security, ourselves, just to say, hey, is it possible, though, that you can just simply list the pool and spa industry under there? Because that would make it a lot clearer, of course. But I will also note that the state orders right now, most of them came out before that updated guidance. So they're still referencing the 19th. But we think that obviously they're going to start to get word of the new one and utilize that. So, as Sabeena had noted, I guess kind of wrapping this up is, first off, CDC said properly maintained pool, there's no evidence of COVID spreading. The World Health Organization has said it's necessary to maintain. The guidance says it's necessary to maintain. We feel like everything has provided us to say we are essential, but we're going to work with other industries and work to make sure we can get more clarity, because I think it'll just help us with state orders and localities that are still, I mean, we're getting some questions in some places it seems clear we're doing well. Others, like Pennsylvania has said service is essential, maintaining the pool, but retail is not. So we got to fix that, for example. So, that's in a nutshell, where there's a lot of different nuances to this, but I think it bodes well for our industry overall, everything that's come out, but we're obviously trying to do everything we can to continue making sure we're essential.
Right. And thank you so much. I think it's never been more clear as to what PHTA stands for and what it does for the people in the pool industry. And it is very clear that you guys are actively, you girls right now, are actively, fighting for us in, finding out what the facts are, going to bat for everybody to make sure that we are essential and we are able to be in the backyards and do what we need to do so that we can keep our businesses afloat and there's not, too much of a disruption in our work lives. So thank you very much. But just wanted to say that in all the things that you're doing, it's so clear in this is just one piece of what you all do. We really appreciate it, because I'm kind of curious, and because I was going to ask for it to be essential, like what exactly did you all do to make that happen, or how does that work? Who had to speak up?
Well, I think in some ways I would just say that some of it was that, like I said, the initial guidance and what the state orders had in them, it was just us speaking up to say, hey, we clearly we fall under this. We're essential because we're providing sanitization and disinfecting. And that's where we came up with some of those flyers to show for people to have in their truck and to show officials. But then what's happened is sometimes we're talking to the governor's offices or lawmakers' offices just to say, hey, this is why, and we're getting ahead of it. Honestly, too, some of what we're doing is we're noticing if they're taking the guidance and we're not seeing issues, it's great. It's more, we then get involved when somebody says, well, wait a minute, we think this is okay, but not this. And that's where we work with our industry locally for any lawmaker connections they have and anybody in the governor's office. And we just reach out and explain to them if they were questioning why we weren't essential, we clearly explain why we are. And like I said, I think when it comes to the service maintaining and the retail stores, that side of it, I think we've got a pretty good win record right now of it. It's very clear. Some of the issues that have come up lately have been more related to construction. And now that's another thing I just wanted to at least mention is we're having to speak up and explain how work in progress, active construction sites also need to be addressed for all the reasons we've discussed earlier, plus just, pool popping at certain parts of the country or, different kind of construction hazards that can exist.
Right. And we have a lot of listeners that are, in construction as well, obviously, because they're building pools, they're remodeling pools. And a lot of them have used subcontractors because they're doing electrical and they're plumbers. They're doing, depends on the complexity of the pool. They've got a lot of different types of contractors in the backyard. So I'm curious, at this point in time, what can they do and what does everybody need to do in order to communicate? Where do they communicate these things to and how they can operate day to day?
Well, first off, we have on our website, just the kind of thing what you're touching on too is practicing social distancing, like just best practices for workplace safeguards for our member companies to be aware of and making sure their employees are aware of. I just saw before this podcast how one of our pool builders in Texas had provided, a go-to meeting kind of information on all the best practices they should be doing, including like their subs, like, hey, we're going to limit one worker per vehicle. Let's make sure we provide that 6 feet or more social distance. We're seeing retail companies adapt to curbside and delivery kind of thing. So we're looking at it. First of all of that information and best practices is on our website, along with the CDC surface disinfection. So I think the point is just making sure our members, we're providing them tools so they're communicating to their staff on best practices. So they're in the field working within the restrictions of what these state and localities have provided, right? Like New York has said, hey, we're only one person can go out there. Just, I guess, work smart for lack of a better term.
Right.
Another angle that we're taking as well with the CISA document is when we talked to the gentleman who runs the government affairs program for the Lawn and Landscape Association, he had also said, and our members have started asking for it, the economic impact of shutting down pool businesses. And we obviously want to keep the workers working and the economy going. So PHTA has done a great job of engaging in annual reports on the economic impact, and those are being highly requested. And Jen's using that as another strategy and putting that into some of our correspondence with the elected officials, because not only is the safety and the deaths that are going on with this pandemic important, also workers and businesses and the nation's economy. So we're also leveraging those surveys as data points to share with elected officials the impact of shutting down pool and service companies.
You guys have a letter, right, that you've written for people to kind of share with legislations on your website?
Yes. There's on the website, there's a letter that is from Sabeena to all elected officials that any of our members can utilize. Plus, there's a template that they can then tailor themselves and utilize. So that's all available on the website. Plus, we're working with some of our chapters to create maybe a chapter letter that they can provide. Because one of the things we do want to be careful on is making sure we're speaking with one voice, and someone maybe contacting an elected official with a question that maybe it could be confusing, and then they come back with an answer we don't like. So I know we're just working with our affiliate NESPA just yesterday on some questions we wanted to ask for New York to provide some clarity. But all that's available on the website, along with updated state orders and locality information that gets updated daily.
We are trying to make it as turnkey as possible for anybody visiting our site. So you can literally copy and paste our letter. You can, we've given you the links to the folks that you should send them to. We want to make it as easy as possible for our members to advocate on behalf of themselves.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for providing all that. I think that's awesome. I've seen in some Facebook groups, in Florida and other places, that people advocating for the industry and using those. So that's been cool to see. And like you mentioned with NESPA, Dominic's done a really good job at kind of updating these YouTube updates, on those 4 states that he monitors with you guys. It's been a lot of good information that's been delivered, and if people are paying attention, there's definitely ways to be active and help out, where you can.
But now is a time to understand, because there's a lot of people that don't collect emails, they don't do social media, they don't do a lot of that stuff. More important, you should understand that you need to have every single client's email, phone number, address, your suppliers, everybody that you deal with, you need to have their emails and all these different things, so that when it comes time to put your message out on social media, or you've got a newsletter that has to go out and email and keeping people updated, that you have that. Because what are you going to do? You're going to pick up the phone and call every single person, or are you going to leave a note on their door? Like, that just doesn't work. So if you don't have those things, it's never too late. Now would be a great time in collecting that information from as many people as possible.
Yeah, good point.
So I'll make a statement. I think it's really important for our service providers to be able to show their leadership to their customers and to their clients, and let their homeowners know that, and their other clients know that they are looking out for them and looking out for their family's security and safety, and just, reinforcing their value.
Right. How do you guys recommend in companies taking action to communicate this message to their local legislation? I know we talked about communicating this stuff to the homeowners in terms of, if you're a builder or service company, how can we be proactive as a whole and communicate this stuff to our specific, city and state?
Well, I think that's where it depends on your state that you're in. For example, in Florida, there's no statewide order still, so it's all county by county. And I know that FSPA has done a great job reaching out to the various counties just to say, hey, we're essential. I mean, we're providing those tools as well, and I hopefully complementing the work they're doing here in Florida. So in Florida, I guess my point is it's going to be more your local county administrators, city council, county councilmen. What's good about Florida, just using that as an example, Brevard and Miami, Broward, and Miami-Dade came out with their ordinances that specified that pools and spas are essential. We're seeing others follow. I mean, this is a large pool state that uses pools year round, similar to Arizona and other Sunbelt states. But then you have other states where it's a statewide order. So I'll use New York, PA, Michigan, Wisconsin, where we're working through the governor's office, or some states actually even have an agency in the government that are asking for you to provide all questions and applications to be deemed essential through there. And so that's what I was mentioned earlier. We're working with some of our chapters, like this Georgia chapter was putting a letter in through that process. Georgia at this point, seems to be not having any issues for being deemed essential, but they were being a proactive there, doing the same in Wisconsin with our Midwest chapter, et cetera. But I guess I point out that it's really more a executive branch outreach and targeting, whether that be, so it's your governor's office, the agencies, or at the local level, it's your city and county councilmen. However, lawmakers, your state reps and senators are still key, because that's where if we run into any trouble, those relationships you build with them can help you, because you can say, hey, we're having an issue where someone in the governor's office has interpreted us as non-essential. And so that's where I say to our members, leverage the relationships you have with your elected officials and have them see if they can help us get that rescinded, for example. So that's kind of the processes we're taking.
Right.
That's perfect. And one of the lessons learned also is nurture and develop those relationships throughout the year. Don't reach out to your elected official when a crisis hits. You need to maintain those relationships and visit them at their local office. Talk to them about your business and the industry, because you never know when you're going to need them. And that's something this industry will embrace, because it's something that Jen and her team are going to drive. We've talked about doing a legislative day on the Hill, but as an industry, we really want to nurture those relationships. It's intimidating, but we're going to equip our members on how to develop those relationships, how to talk about the pool and hot tub industry and the economic impact and the importance of our J1 visas. So you will see this association doing more of that. And that's something that we talked about when I first came on board, our desire to be more actively engaged locally and federally with government affairs. So a lesson learned for the listeners, nurture those relationships with elected officials. Tell them what your company does, what they provide to the community, how many people you employ, how important, and what issues you need them to focus on to support your businesses.
Yeah, I think that goes a really long way, with educating all the customers, like we talk about all the time, educating the outside world on what we do and how important it is, and helps with allowing us to price ourselves correctly, doing what HVAC companies do, what plumbing unions do, things like that this industry has been lacking for a while. Building relationships with government officials and keeping those relationships and making more people aware of what we do and why we do it is very important for those, lines of communication.
Yeah, and I think, some of these references, the PHTA Cronus page for customer communications and different things like that is going to be great, because, even if you're sharing with the homeowner what you're doing about the coronavirus, you're going to be looked at as a professional that's doing things, correctly. And they're not just seeing you as a pool boy in flip-flops, as, we discussed, that doesn't take things serious, but you are actively either a part of PHTA or you're paying close attention to how it's affecting, your business, and that you're really paying close attention. So I was kind of curious how, people can actually use, you have, 2 customizable flyers and, other things like that. Can you share with us some of the things you have and how people can use them?
Sure. We have a couple different customizable flyers. One that includes builders and service professionals. The other is all 3 key units, including the retailers. And our intent was to offer them up to our members to be able to add their company contact information, their company logo. They're customizable. You can, pretty much make them completely your own. We've seen a lot of our Facebook users and social media followers posting them on their sites to their customers. So just, something to keep in mind. Be sure, this is why we're important. We protect your community health. We, protect public health. Keep your family safe. So there's a couple of different ways that we are seeing people use them. I think primarily they're sending it out via socials right now, and but we also wanted to make sure that they could use them in, as part of their mailers, or they can include them in, when they can conduct a service, they can drop them off with the homeowner, directly, or maybe not directly, so to speak, anymore, but they can include them in their leave behinds. So just and if anyone has any other creative ways that they're seeing them be used, we would love to hear it, because we want to make sure that we share best practices from a marketing and communications perspective too, like what's working within your pool company, how you're educating your clients about the value of maintaining your pool.
Yeah, and what is all in the flyer exactly? We'll say for pool service, for instance, what exactly is in it? I know you can customize it with your company information, but what else is in it?
The flyer includes content that's focused on our key talking points. So essentially, why maintaining your pool is important to public health for the community, why it's important to your family's public health, your family's health and well-being, why, especially as pools open earlier in the season this year, why it's important to just stay on top of maintaining the safety and security of your pool. We also stress the public safety hazard component of abandoned pools, why you should not stop construction on a pool that you're maybe currently building. So just various points like that.
That's all really good stuff. I mean, that's something that you should, Facebook, Twitter, I know those two, you can actually pin that to the top of your page, but that should be sort of a staple within your social media presence, where people are visiting your page and it's the first thing they see, that this is, these are some of the things that you need to know about our services and why you need to keep us around, pretty much. So excellent stuff. And I think if you're using Instagram as too, and you have customers on there, it's something you can send even through direct message, along with a link going back to any page, because you can send links through there as well. So that'd be a great place to be able to do all that. But thank you for putting that all together.
Absolutely.
Well, it's that time of year again. PoolRx is having their spring big sale event. That means it is time for you to stock up for the summer. When we were running Brothers, this was one of our favorite times of the year. We got a discount on the product, but more importantly, we were setting our pools up to be successful and reducing chemical usage, which saved us a ton of time and money. Let me tell you a little bit more about the product. PoolRx eliminates and prevents all types of algae, reduces chlorine demand, and lasts up to 6 months. With PoolRx, there is no need for phosphate removers, clarifiers, or other algicides. While using PoolRx, you will see high-definition water clarity. I mean, these pools just pop. Right now, you can get $15 off a 4-pack of blue units and $17.50 off a 4-pack of black units at your favorite distribution location. The sale ends April 30th, so get them while you can. If you want to find out more about the product and how we used it for our company, please go listen to episode 8 of the podcast. And you can also visit poolrx.com by clicking the link below.
So, Jennifer, what can pool business owners be putting into place right now?
So right now, they need to obviously be following the social distancing when they're in the backyard. So from, that's one of the things the owners should be making sure all their employees are doing so. And, I know on the maintenance and service side of the industry, that's pretty normal, right? And I mean, there's usually one person in the backyard. Even in the construction side, with the builders, making sure that there's more than one of them in the site, that they're having that 6 feet or more social distancing. They are limiting one worker per vehicle. So that may mean having to take more vehicles to the work site there on an active pool construction. But it's important that they are practicing all these best practices to follow what the CDC and others have. We're also seeing from the retail side, a lot more companies offering curbside service. I know Pool Corp, Leslie's, a lot of other different groups are doing so. Also home delivery, so people are not having to walk into the store. We also encourage companies to download the CDC surface disinfection poster. So they're showing, posting that. So they're showing the consumers who may be there or coming into their store for something, or their employees, they're following this guidelines on proper surface disinfection is what I should say. Now, we have all the workplace safeguards on the PHTA website available to the members, along with that poster that I mentioned. I think that, like I said, it's our member companies making sure they're following these practices, getting the word out to their employees to make sure their employees feel confident in that and go into work every day. We've had a lot of member companies that put signs up to say, hey, we're closing our business to the public, but we're here working actively. You can reach us via these other means, for example. So that's some of what they can do, and I think what we're seeing them do. But for those who haven't, that's what we'd encourage them to put in place.
Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And I know you guys were even talking about some of the things that you're doing. It's hard to say that you might have any downtime, but you're able to put together, different maybe workflows or SOPs and different things like that. Do you think that this is a really good time to kind of be proactive and do some things that you might not have had time to do before, even updating the website and all those things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that from an association perspective, that's something that we're embracing, taking the time to work on our SOPs, and we're refine the integration through the unification, as well as launch a new website. Janay did a great job with the mini site for the Corona update, and you'll see more of that with WAC and the rest of the website. So we are going to take the opportunity while we're at home working remotely, and the phones have quieted down a bit as our members are really focused on the adjustments that they're making in their business. So we'll most certainly take advantage of that. Janay had mentioned that the COVID Facebook page, where we have a positivity post, and some of our members are doing really cool things. Rich Garby is with GLI Pool Products. They really wanted to show the community how they can play a role in supporting hospitals and COVID-19. And so their plan is making cotton masks, and they're hiring people to sew who've been laid off to create these masks to help out in hospitals. Andy Levinson is with Jetline, and he's up in the Northeast, and he's gotten calls from hospitals to donate goggles and swim masks to serve as a substitute for the mask. And you've heard of Tesla and Ford and some of the car manufacturers doing the same thing. So those are, I said to them, when we come out at the other end, you guys are really that you're going to make a lasting impression as leaders in the community. So we've seen a lot of that. And what Jen has mentioned too, a lot of our members are being very creative in how they're adjusting how they service their members. And again, we want to share that so other folks can embrace some of those creative ways of continuing to do business.
Right. No, that's all good stuff. And this is, how crazy is this? I actually owned a face mask company.
Yeah, you did.
I started a face mask company like 6-7 years ago, maybe longer than that. But I might have been too early. I maybe would have done better this day and age. But I think that's all really good. And I think, we talk a lot about this, that this is actually an opportunity for a lot of, service companies to think outside of the box. Because with all this going on, people aren't going to be flying and traveling and doing all these things quite as much. They're going to want to be in their homes. They're going to want to be in their backyard. So they're going to need pools built. They're going to need pools to be taken care of. They're going to want to buy, the chase chairs and the table sets and different games and toys. And why not you be the provider of selling these items to them? And there's a lot of different things that you can do. Everything from having an online store and making sure that they get a newsletter that shows the different, things that you sell, to even having a delivery service, of chemicals, and letting them know that you're buying the best product from distribution. It's not going to be from anywhere else. You're going to actually be providing chemicals from distribution. So if any homeowners are thinking about cutting your service, there's a lot of different opportunities where you can teach pool school or, charge for chemicals on a monthly, almost like a subscription model, and that's why we do what we do in service because you have that, residual income. It's not quite as much, but, you can provide some kind of subscription model through even selling chemicals, and we still do O-rings and pump baskets and filter cleans and all these different things. So there's other ways to make money. I don't think we've ever done a very good job in selling furniture and, goggles and, pool floats and all those different things. It would be a good time to start thinking about how you can build relationships with these manufacturers that make kids' toys and goggles and all these different things, and how you can get wholesale pricing and able to actually sell these items. And the cool thing is that's you can have a lot more fun with that on social media. So if you do start selling, ledge lounger, furniture, chairs, things like that, they have a lot of assets that you can use that are really fun to plug into your social media. If you want to sell, like Fun Boy floats, they have floats, they're in the shape of a pizza or a swan or whatever emoji you can think of, building those relationships, going to a whole nother level with this stuff, especially through, I think these times, a lot of economists are talking about where this is a lot different, where automation is going to become bigger than we ever thought because of the way that we manufacture products and cars and different things like that. And a lot of people are out of that equation. They want more robots and they want more different things like that. And now that we're able to do Zoom conference calls and we're relying on social media, it's a good time to think about, you can probably hook up an Amazon Alexa to their pool equipment. You can talk to them about how your pool can be smart and turn the lights on without actually going to the equipment and flipping a switch. Because now through these times, automation is heavy.
Yeah, and I think what we talk about a lot is like a good positive mindset. A lot of the stuff going on right now is negative. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of things, but really if you keep a positive mindset, whatever you reflect within your business and to your customers, that's going to rub off on them. That composure will rub off on your employees. If you're negative all the time, it's going to have a negative situation. They're going to be negative to the customers. You got to try your best to really take a bad thing, and make it a good thing, and try to find ways within this to shine. It's your opportunity to rise above kind of other people and rise above and show your true professionalism to the customers, but also to your team, and, be there for them and take care of them and be the leader that you're supposed to be.
But, you should be thinking, why do they need my services? And you should be utilizing all the resources that we're talking about today, where you should use this template email. You should use this poster. You should use all these different assets and go create a MailChimp account and put all your emails in it and send that message out every week or twice a week or whatever it may be, so that they understand right away, I know exactly why I need them. Because there's a lot of service providers out there that are not doing that. And when it comes down to, trimming the fat or cutting companies out, don't you want to be the company that made the homeowner understand what they're doing in the backyard and how professional they are and everything that is going on? So it's just gonna make you better if you start thinking about those things. And everybody is extremely lucky in this time to have our podcast and a team like PHTA in really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, to where you're really just kind of downloading stuff and copying, pasting it, and, plugging in your logo and doing a lot of different things like that. But hey, we signed up for this and, we enjoy what we do, but don't be a fool and not utilize these resources. I mean, at this point, it's pretty easy. And if you don't know what to do or how to communicate with homeowners, for sure, you can reach out to us anytime, and you can definitely reach out to PHTA. And I know all of us would love to help everybody that we possibly can, because we get through this. This is I don't want to say as the worst it can get, but this is some tricky times right now. And if you can really power through it and make the best of it, I think there's not a lot that you won't be able to do in the future.
There was an article that I read that we'll probably share on our social. It's how to expand your company's resilience zone through this coronavirus. And it talks about, there's something in there, I'm actually going to read it because it really resonated. It said, provide next level value to customers, listen intently to customer needs, and be part of their plan as they also navigate through uncertain times. Customers may have unusual requirements. Address them as an opportunity to demonstrate concern, care, and kindness. Rather than trying to maximize sales, focus on enhancing the customer's quality of life. Creating value in crisis is a win-win-win. And that resonates so well with what the pool and hot tub industry does when you talk about quality of life. And PHTA is using it as a platform. So we're a new organization in a sense to really show them who we are. We're compassionate. We want to serve our members. We want to provide them tools. So I would encourage members and, even non-members, your listeners that are part of this industry, to use this as an opportunity to really communicate often to their customers about who they are, how things are going for them, if the businesses or some parts of the businesses have been suspended, when they will re-engage, and just over communicate. I really thought that really resonated with me in terms of servicing the pool and hot tub industry. I thought it was a great opportunity to really show your customers who you are and what your company's all about.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, the swimming pool, we don't talk about it enough, but the swimming pool is seriously a sanctuary for a lot of people. It's very therapeutic. There's so many different benefits to it, and being able to share what those experiences look like and how, there obviously are different things you might need to buy, but even from putting together a playlist for your customers and how to enjoy, listening to a Spotify playlist that your company put together for them to listen to, by the pool. If you have time, watch this documentary. It's called Fish People, and it's about people that actually they're sharing their story about their connection to the water, whether it's the ocean or whether it's they're taking photos, of the waves crashing down underneath the water, different things like that. But when you hear, it's just a beautiful documentary about people expressing themselves in what water actually is to them. And I think people might have a different idea of what it truly is like to have a pool, because I think a lot of people don't have swimming pools, don't use them, might not know what that is. But in a time when it's so crazy in the world, it's so cool that we get to be a part of maintaining and taking care of that little sanctuary in somebody's backyard. And I think that's the way that we all need to think about it is, everything might be going crazy, but let's make sure that when they get to be in their pool, that they can block out all those worries and just be, one with the water and truly enjoy life with their family and, loved ones and things like that.
That's great. Fish People. We'll put it on our watch list.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I have to say, as someone who has a backyard pool, I mean, it's been definitely an oasis for my family and I the last few weeks. I mean, we've utilized it so much just to kind of get away and not be thinking about everything that's changed and what we're dealing with. So I agree. That's
awesome. When you just sitting out there, or is it warm enough? Are you heating the pool up?
We warmed it up. I have a pool heater, so I turned it on actually about 3 weeks ago, and water is 78 degrees and we are loving it. And I mean, it's great for my son, get some energy out like we talked about earlier. But also for me, I mean, after a long day, just to sit in there and kind of float away, it's very good for the mind.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's perfect. We were talking too. This is a great opportunity to talk to homeowners about, if they have a heater and some different options in getting a heater, or even fixing their heater. Maybe they have one, but hasn't worked in a while. This is a great time to do that, because most of us, our families are, we're all kind of stuck at home. So if you do have a swimming pool, it's a great time to get that thing heated up, because we're kind of in that funny time where it's not going to be heated by the sun for another couple months or so.
Right.
So good time for that. So let's shift gears a bit. It's inevitable that things will affect your business at some point in time. And, no one really saw this virus coming, but economies go up, they go down for a lot of different reasons. How do you think businesses can plan for their future during this time and be ready for whatever event comes next?
preparing for something like this, there's a document we're going to send out, a business planning guide. It's kind of FEMA actually authored it. And we're going to put some specifics for the pool and hot tub industry, but it's ways that you can prepare for this. I mean, sheltering in place, how do you communicate to your staff members, your customers? Do you turn off the electricity? Your vendors who are accustomed to delivering goods and services to you. So we have a kit that we will include in the collateral that we send out to your listeners after this podcast. I know from our perspective, from PHTA, we have really relied a lot on our legal counsel. Our attorney is a gentleman by the name of Steve Getzoff, and he is a godsend. Whether he's helping us from an association perspective or our state associations or individual members, he is in the trenches. And I think he's probably averaging 1 or 2 hours a night of sleep because he too has COVID on the brain. But he's been a tremendous resource for me, the organization as a whole and individually. We've also talked to our insurance brokers, looking at your insurance policies. There's something called business disruption insurance, but some brokers are saying that's for a national disaster, not for a pandemic. So it's also a time to look at how you are insured. Lessons from leaders as well. Reach out to your colleagues, whether they're competitors or they're, folks that you've met at the annual convention. Reach out to them as well and see what they're doing. And if you're involved not only in PHTA, but Chamber of Commerce is putting out some really good information. Small SBA, Small Business Administration, they're putting out CARES Act and some of the benefits that you could take advantage of through the CARES Act. So leverage as much as you can. We will be doing a webinar and posting it on our website in terms of how you can take advantage of the loans. Some of them cover up to 2 months of payroll, rent, and utilities. So there's a lot to glean. There's a lot of information out there. We're going to take what's being promoted through some of the federal agencies and replicate that on our website, but specify it for our industry. Again, those relationships, I know a lot of our members are talking to bankers. What they're saying today is, we don't know. The CARES Act was passed, but we're still waiting to see how you apply. Some people may have applied under phase 2, but now they have to reapply under phase 3. So it's just really being diligent about that and staying on top of it. I have an active group of association professionals and some board members, and any information we get, we're just sharing with one another. So keep that networking and those contacts and those relationships open, because you can learn from one another.
Yeah, that's all really good stuff that everybody should be paying close attention to. And we talked a lot about, even cash flow more than ever. You need to make sure that you are putting money aside so that when these things happen, that you do have sort of a reserve, so that when things do happen, you do have cash. But everybody should be really learning too that you should not be wasteful of anything, because I do know that when we had our pool service company, there was a lot of times that we would maybe dose a pool of a very expensive chemical, and the homeowner might not have gotten charged for it, or anything like that. Even inside of the office, internally, the warehouse, wherever it may be, it's a really good time to not be wasteful of a single thing, because it's a time to be lean in every way imaginable. So a lot of that is back to educating the guys that are doing the work, the day-to-day work, the technicians or some of the subcontractors that are utilizing your supplies. Make sure that they're doing it in a responsible way, so that you're not leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for you to really take a look at the business and see where you've overspent, keep track of your finances a lot closer. And like you said, figure out how to have a savings account, figure out ways that you're hurting right now, look at the ways you're hurting right now, and then figure out how a fix for the future would fix that, and kind of make those adjustments. I know when we ran our company, there was a lot of times we had conversations about a lot of these important aspects, but we didn't have time per se to work on them. like this is the time to work on them. If you're home or you're in your office, a lot more now is a time to really take a really outside perspective look at your business and see where these holes have been, where these pain points have been, and look at them and say, how do I fix this for the future? Those are really what you're looking for. What's really hurt the most, and then what can you put in place, fix that in the future.
Right. Yeah. Think about if you were going to turn your business into a franchise or you're going to sell it tomorrow, what would you need to do in order to package that up to be able to do that? I heard that in a lot of different places, and that really puts things in a perspective, is that, oh yeah, I would need to have this. There would have to be job descriptions. There would have to be all these SOPs, so it's a good way to look at it.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you all, really joining and diving into all that and all the efforts you've made. I think it's really, we talked about this earlier, Greg and I, that for people that don't know what PHTA does, this is a big piece of it. And for people questioning, whether or not to be a member or what the membership includes, like these people are fighting for you. They're fighting for you every day, fighting for their rights, for the pool industry. This is a piece that goes unnoticed a lot, on the day to day, but it's a really big, important piece. So thank you all for your hard work. We really appreciate, everything you're doing for the industry. And
well, you guys as well. You guys do a great job of keeping your listeners informed and educating them in a very fun, light, and very a great way that really resonates. So we appreciate you guys squeezing us into your schedule. I know people wait in line to be part of your podcast. So thank you for including us, all three of us.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's been an honor.
Yes, thanks a lot, guys. It was a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Janay, I don't want to forget, we've talked about lots of resources here. And can you mention the website again and kind of the social platforms for PHTA and what those are?
Sure. Yeah. We utilize 4 primary channels. We utilize Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And obviously there's different posts that we share vis-a-vis all of those different channels. But the website, 100% PHTA coronaupdate.com. It is updated daily. It's updated almost hourly sometimes with the information that flows through our staff, through our chapters and everything. I also think that it's really important to just reiterate how our members need to tell their story, and they can use all of the resources that we're creating to make that happen, but it's got to be their story, because if there is a void of information, their customers are going to create their own stories. So if they can use our resources and use the information and intelligence that we are gathering from the membership to help themselves, that's 100% a success for us as an industry.
For sure. Yeah, and we will be sharing, all of PHTA's resources, links on our episode website page, as well as some of the other associations. I know you've done a really great job, FSPA, CPSA, Dominic with NESPA, Texas Coalition. There's been a lot of joint efforts in this, and we'll have links to a lot of that stuff on our episode webpage so that the listeners can go there and get everything they need in one spot. So once again, we really want to thank you guys for being here and spending time with us today on the podcast.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
It's been fun. You guys make it easy, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guest or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/Pool Chasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.